What's up, YouTube? PokePrimer here, primed and ready to deliver you week 1 of the UPA Showdown Division here on the channel. This week, your Anaheim Appletons are taking on the Sydney Thundurus, coached by Cowpatt. You can see he is an Aussie, so it's going to be interesting trying to schedule this one. Scheduling with people on that side of the world is always a fun time, but it shouldn't be too bad. I've gotten used to it at this point. Plus, I don't sleep a normal sleep schedule, so it should be pretty easy to work around theirs. But yeah, so we are facing off against Cowpatt, and I believe he has one of the scariest sand teams I think I've ever come up against. As it's incredibly well designed, a lot of aspects of it that are incredibly scary, so I'm just going to get into it so you can see what the problem is. So his team consists of Dracovish, Rillaboom, Mega Garchomp, Azelf, Florges, Chandelure, Gigalith, Escavalier, Vikavolt, and Cryogonal. So, one, he has Rillaboom, right? Good for ground coverage, helps protect things like Chandelure. Good to stop, good for ground type moves in general as like a switch in, but also with the grassy terrain, it helps protect things like Chandelure and Gigalith from things like Earthquake coming out, which is also a pain. Also deals with those water types that typically are strong against sand cores. So that's scary. Mega Garchomp with the Sand Force, going to be hitting like an absolute truck when that sandstorm's up. Definitely going to be a problem to deal with for sure. Dracovish with Sand Rush now, that's going to be ridiculous to deal with. It does lose a lot of its punching power if it's Sand Rush, but also like I can't sleep on the potential of it still being Strong Jaw, so I do have to prep for that appropriately. So we'll go into how I've done that once we get into the actual team. Azelf, good, hazard setter, also just incredibly strong offensive threat. Not particularly bulky, but it doesn't need to be because it's just that fast and hits that hard. Definitely could see this thing being a potential threat. Florges, such bulky fairy nonsense. Literally forced some of our prep this week because I had to. It was essential to have something to deal with this appropriately. Chandelure, Ghost Fire, fire immunity is annoying, to say the least, but not like the worst thing in the world. It's something that we can fairly easily deal with. But potential Flame Body or Infiltrator is also could be hazardous to us in some way, shape, or form. Gigalith, the Sand Setter, gonna be something we have to be very careful with. Definitely not something I will ever underestimate. It could just go boom late in the game as well and just give his Sand Sweepers like a full, 5-6 turns of sand to really mess us up with. So definitely something I need to be careful with for sure. Getting rid of this thing as soon as physically possible is incredibly important. I'm gonna definitely be trying to do that. Escavalier, bulky as hell. If you do not have fire coverage, you are not going to be breaking this thing anytime soon. So that's definitely forced some prep on our end, of course, as well. Vikavolt, potential for webs, which is no bueno. Really upset that I have to deal with sticky webs plus sand week 1. This team is, like I said, this team is gross. This team is really gross. And then he has Cryogonal for potential hazard support as well, with potential Rapid Spin or Defog on this thing. Really just, it's a strong team. You can see by the stat averages here. It's really good average stat-wise across the board. Its speed is brought down a little bit. Its speed is kind of brought down a little bit, if I can get it over there. I can't get it over there. Oh, well. It's like the average speed is only 72, but that's because of things like Gigalith and Escavalier being like 20. But everything else is like in the mid to high 90s and low hundreds. So, like, really strong team overall. Definitely going to be one that's going to give us a lot of problems, but hopefully our build is going to be enough for this. So let's smooth transitions into the team itself. So it's over here, and we're good to go. Yay! Professionalism. I am the most professional YouTuber on the platform. You cannot tell me otherwise. Start things off, we have Aoshi, the Mamoswine, rocking the Focus Sash with the Oblivious ability. Do I want Oblivious? I actually don't remember. No, I don't want Oblivious. Why would I do that? He doesn't have an Intimidator. Yeah, I want Thick Fat. I forgot to change it. Focus Sash, Mamoswine with Thick Fat, rocking High Horsepower, Ice Shard, Freeze Dry, and Knock Off. Max attack, 216 speed with the Naive Nature, and then 40 and 2 HP. So, this Mamoswine, it outspeeds a Dracovish outside of a max speed Jolly Dracovish outside of Sand. Okay? So basically, this is more or less designed to deal with Dracovish entirely, but it helps with other things as well. So High Horsepower just hits things incredibly hard across the board, no debate there. He does have the 2 ground immunities, or has 3 ground immunities, but one of the, none of them want to take a knockoff, which is why that's there. Knockoff is to catch those ground immunities off guard and get some good damage off on them as well. Ice Shard for the priority. This helps deal with the Mega Garchomp if it gets out of hand at any point during the game. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's there if it does. Also to hope, it's not gonna help us with Rillaboom, unfortunately. Because I don't feel like running a Choice Scarf Mamoswine just to hit a Rillaboom with an Ice Shard before it Grassy Glides me to hell. That's not what I'm here to do. So I'm not going to do that. And then Freeze Dry. Freeze Dry, it allows this thing to, as long as I'm still at full health, which I'm going to do my best to try to keep myself there, and preserve this thing as best I can. This allows me to beat Dracovish. Because I'm Focus Sash, I don't take damage from Sandstorm. If he is, if he's Adamant Banded, he'll be slower than me, and I'll hit him with the Freeze Dry, and then I'll be able to kill him with Ice Shard the next turn. If he is faster than me, it doesn't matter, because he'll still knock me into my Sash, and I'll knock him down with Freeze Dry, and then Ice Shard him immediately afterwards. It doesn't matter if he is Sandrush or Strongjaw or whatever. This set 1v1's Dracovish as long as I can keep my HP there. So hazard removal is going to be paramount in this one for sure. Definitely going to be incredibly important to keep hazards off in this one, but I definitely think that that's something I can do. It's going to be a priority without a doubt in my mind. But with this set, I can beat the Dracovish, and that makes me happy. Do I have other ways of dealing with Dracovish as well? Of course. I'm not stupid. I know Dracovish is incredibly good, and I need as many options as possible against it. But, this is one of my offensive options for dealing with Dracovish. So, really, really excited about this. Mamoswine's going to be a very, very strong member of the team. Next up, we have Yasuhiko, the Zarude, going with a defensive set because Dracovish. Leftovers, Darkest Lariat, Seed Bomb, Jungle Healing, and U-Turn. 252 HP, 244 defense with an Impish Nature, and 12 into Spadef. So, unless he's running... So this is basically like my ultimate like Fish's Wren switch in. If he's Adamant Banded Dracovish with Strongjaw, this thing takes two Vicious Rends. Thanks to Leftover's recovery. Which would allow me to potentially U-turn on it, get some chip damage, would allow me to potentially Seed Bomb it for damage. And a fun thing is, if he's Adamant and Sand Force, he loses so much punching power, this thing is not even 3 KO'd by Vicious Rend at that point. Which is even better. This thing is so bulky, it just completely deals with Dracovish. Now, he could very easily run Leech Life. Very easily run Leech Life to deal with this. And that is something that I completely see coming. 100%. Like, it would be surprising if he didn't. That's why this isn't always going to be my initial switch into Dracovish. This isn't going to be my initial switch into Dracovish, because I need to scout for Leech Life as much as possible. But Zarude also, just defensively, is pretty good against Rillaboom, except for the potential U-turn. Really solid against Garchomp, except for Poison Jab. Again, like, U-turn's pretty much the only thing that's really problematic for it defensively in this matchup, which kind of sucks, because 3 of his prominent physical or offensive threats, Rillaboom, Garchomp, or Rillaboom and... Actually, no, it's just Rillaboom and Azelf. 2 of his prominent threats have U-turn. Garchomp's Poison Jab still does a lot of damage, but we can still tank it and heal off the damage with Jungle Healing and whatnot, and, you know, be fine. But defensively, this thing, it was necessary for Dracovish. And hopefully it does well. Looking at it now, like, this thing doesn't have a great matchup. But, like, if it can come in on Dracovish, or even Gigalith, and just click Darkest Lariat and get some damage off on something, click Seed Bomb and get some damage off, you know, maybe Jungle Healing every now and then to keep itself healthy, that's fine. I just need ways of keeping Dracovish from doing things and being able to chip down his team. Because one thing that I noticed, he has the Florges, but I can beat the Florges. And I need to force the Florges to start throwing wishes around early so we can get rid of those. So, this thing could help with that. The next Mon, as our alternate Dracovish switch-in, is Gine the Suicune. With the Rocky Helmet, pressure for the ability Scald, Rest, Sleep Talk, and Ice Beam. 252 HP, 204 defense with a Bold Nature, and 52 in Speed F. This allows us to not be 2 KO'd. I believe this isn't 2 KO'd by... Let me double check. I believe this is not 2 KO'd by Banded Vish. I believe this isn't 2 KO'd by Banded Vish. I could be wrong. Okay, it's like a 23% chance to KO us with Adamant Banded Vish, which is fine. But this also makes sure that... Yeah, okay. This guarantees that no move besides Vicious Rend on an Adamant Banded Vish can 2 KO us. That includes Outrage. Outrage is not a 2 KO on us. It also would include Leech Life, which I'm banking on him having. I'm almost expecting it. And actually, Leech Life does next to nothing. And thanks to the Rocky Helmet, he would get no HP back from it either. So that's very, very nice for us. But that's also not taking into account if he is not Strong Jaw, and if he is indeed Sand Rush, which essentially makes it so that, aside from Outrage, nothing he does any damage to us. Vicious Rend does max 35%. And with Rest and Sleep Talk available, that thing just kind of can't touch us. And being the physically defensive monster that Suicune is, it definitely can come in multiple times against Dracovish, tank those hits, rest it off, and then just sleep talk its way to victory. Nothing really appreciates a Scald on his team, which is nice as well. Getting a burn off on something will be really nice. We also have the Ice Beam to potentially catch the Garchomp off guard, or potentially catch the Rillaboom if it tries to come in on us on a Sleep Talk, maybe not expecting us to have Ice Beam. We might get lucky, and we might be able to smack him with one of those. So that could be awesome as well. And even if we hit him with a Scald, we could potentially burn the Rillaboom, which would make things even better for us. Speaking of burning the Rillaboom, however, we have other ways of dealing with that particular situation, and that is with Hajime the Eviolite Magmar. Magmar is... I'll say it now. Magmar is not the bulkiest Pokemon. By any means. It's not even bulky at all. But it's bulky enough. So, like, the only thing that Rillaboom can do to 2KO this thing is Adamant Banded Woodhammer. I don't think he's going to be adamant in this one, because he needs to make sure that he can outspeed and Grassy Glide Mamoswine. So that means at most he'll be Jolly Banded, which Woodhammer still 2KOs us. But there's the recoil damage. There's a potential for Flame Body. And that's also, you know, banking on the fact that he's banded, which he might not be, because we do have a lot of solid grass resists with things like Yasuhiko, Zarude, we got Salamence, we have Skuntank. He might not be banded. So, if worst case scenario, if he needs the worst case scenario here to KO us, and without that he has no chance, that makes me feel good. Plus, Flame Body, burn, 30% chance. Would love that. There are so many instances where I would like to potentially get a switch into something that potentially cause a Flame Body burn, and that would be fantastic for us. Move-wise, we have Lava Plume, Scorching Sands, Will-O-Wisp, and Teleport. I'll be honest, I really don't know why I went with this spread. This makes it so that if we can't keep rocks off the field, we do not die to a Adamant Banded Woodhammer from full. We will live the Woodhammer after rocks. There we go. That is our reasoning here. So, yay, exciting. Lava Plume, just so that we have, you know, a damaging move. Obviously, he has access to Chandelure, which is immune to fire-type moves, but it would not appreciate a Scorching Sands much at all. So that's something that could be very fun to utilize. Hopefully we can catch that thing with a Scorching Sands and really, really, you know, chip that thing down as well, if it even comes, which I think it might. We have Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp is to potentially catch things like the Dracovish, things like the Gigalith on switch in. to potentially just cripple them, which is very nice. And then teleport is for, like, if we switch into Rillaboom, if it goes for, like, a Grassy Glide, we switch in, we tank it, and then we can click teleport and get back on out of there. Yeah, it at least gives us that option to kind of hold some form of momentum in the game, which I think could be very important for us somewhere in there. Next up, we have Kenshin the Salamence with the Intimidate, Dragon Claw, Dual Wing Beat, Earthquake, and Fire Fang. We're rocking Max Attack, Adamant Nature, 196 Speed, 4 into Defense, and 56 into HP. So, the reason I went with this amount of speed is mainly because this is about all we need. So we can't outspeed Azelf. We can't outspeed that thing naturally. We cannot naturally outspeed Cryogonal. So no need for that. No need to worry about that. While we can naturally outspeed Mega Garchomp, we're scarfed, and Garchomp can't be. Therefore, there's no point in investing that much speed, because as long as we can preserve our Scarf, which we have to be careful about, as long as we preserve our Scarf, we're guaranteed to outspeed that thing. And then Rillaboom would want to be utilizing either its hard-hitting offenses, so it would probably want to be banded, or it would want to be able to hit something and then be able to Grassy Glide afterwards. So, with that in mind, I didn't expect that thing would be scarfed, so I could conclude that my best bet is to invest down to the level of something like Chandelure. Sitting at base 80, that potentially could be scarfed, so that I can outspeed that and anything below it, and potentially just outspeed everything on his team. That's my entire mindset, and that's why I went with this. Adamant Nature really, really helps a lot. It helps with things like Dual Wing Beat KOing Rillaboom. It helps with Dragon Claw getting much closer to one-hit KOing Garchomp and Dracovish. As well as putting it into a position to, pick up big KOs on some of his more frail Pokemon. We have Earthquake as well as an option to hit the Chandelure and the Gigalith. In hindsight now, actually, the Earthquake is not the best option. Dragon Claw / Dual Wing Beat still hit the Chandelure. But I think instead of Earthquake, I think I can go with... I wish you had Iron Head. I think it's Steel Wing. Maybe we go Iron Tail. I know it's risky, but we need that extra damage as well for Florges. I think Florges is going to be a big, big defensive threat in this one. So definitely going to need that little extra bit of punching power. And if we smack that thing with an Iron Head, I think that can pretty much almost wipe that thing out almost immediately, which is a very, very very, very exciting prospect for us. Getting rid of that thing as fast as possible is important. And then we have the Fire Fang. This allows us to smack pretty much the bottom three members of his team, the Escavalier, the Vikavolt, and the Cryogonal, incredibly hard. Specifically the Escavalier, which is really hard for us to break through without this. So I think this is very important to have, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, last but not least, we have our final member, Hiyotoko, the Skuntank, which I'm actually going to change this set around really quick because I was thinking about it a little bit ago, and I recognize that this is important. So, we now have Hiyotoko, the Skuntank, with the heavy-duty boots with Aftermath, Poison Jab, Sucker Punch, Defog, and Fire Blast, 232 HP, 208 into attack with the Naughty Nature, and 68 into special attack. The 68 into special attack pretty much guarantees that Fire Blast 2 KOs Spadef Escavalier. This is obviously if it's not Assault Vest. We didn't have enough investment to KO Assault Vest Spadef Escavalier, but I believe we do still potentially. This is another one that I will check. As long as it's not, say, max HP Assault Vest. Versus Skuntank. $68. Fire Blast. Has an incredibly good chance to KO it. If it's just max HP Assault Vest. Okay, cool. Because a Scavalier could be a switch into this thing. Basically, we need Defog on this because potential webs from the Vikavolt and then rocks and stuff coming from things like Garchomp or Gigalith or Azelf. Basically, just needing to be able to get rid of that kind of stuff for the Mamoswine, for Magmaer to be, very useful for Salamence. All those things we need rocks and stuff gone for. Webs aren't a big deal if I still have Salamence and I feel like I can sweep with it, but I still require the need to remove rocks. Rocks are a no-no. So we go with the boots so that we're not bothered by webs, we're not bothered by we're not going to be bothered by the rocks at all. It's just going to be really, really nice. So, I think that we can definitely make it work. Skuntank is a very solid defogger. And, yeah, it's going to be something worth... Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be prioritized. We have 208 attack with Naughty Nature, because this allows us to actually... I think this attack investment allows us to guarantee the 2 KOs on Defensive Florges, and guaranteed pickup Okos on things like Azelf and Chandelure with Sucker Punch. So it pretty much puts us in the best possible position to beat this team. I think Skuntank's going to put in a lot of work this week. It kind of has to. It's going to be something that's something that's forced to put in a lot of work. But I think this is definitely something that can work out really well for us. Skuntank's always put in work for me in the past, so I'm sure that it will this time. But with that being said, I'm going to head right into the battle. It will be post-commentated, so it'll be right there attached to this immediately afterwards. So, yeah, let's hop right over to the battle and see how this team worked out. Alright guys, we are here now for our Week 1 battle against Cowpatt and the Sydney Thundurus. Obviously, you know what we're bringing. He decided to bring the Azelf, the Garchomp, the Mega Garchomp, the Rillaboom, the Vikavolt, the Dracovish, and the Chandelure. So he did not bring his Sand Setter, which I'm not entirely surprised by. Dracovish has more damage output without the sand against us, and Mega Garchomp, let's be real, it doesn't need the Sand Force boost to get going. It's strong enough as it is. So aside from that, which was always an option that he could have brought, but you know, it was pretty much 50-50 whether he would or not. Pretty much not too surprised with anything that he brought here. I'm thinking like going into this, I was thinking like the Vikavolt was probably going to be webs, so I was really happy that I packed the boots on Skuntank for that purpose, so I can get those defogged away. And like overall in the game, I wasn't entirely positive on what his sets would be, but I was probably expecting at least one of these to be scarfed. Wasn't sure what I was expecting out of Rillaboom, and Azelf is always up in the air. So we'll figure out. We'll try to figure out Azelf as quick as we can. But wasn't exactly sure how he would want to lead. But I was thinking like if he wanted to lead with the Vikavolt, or the Rillaboom to try to catch like maybe my Mamo lead or something. I was thinking maybe I'd go with my Magmar lead. Oh, schnizzles. Gotta turn off the music. There we go. So I do lead with my Magmar as he leads with his Azelf, as he goes for a Psychic, and that damage is Specs damage. I calculated immediately afterwards. I was like, that is way too much damage to make me feel okay. Magmar is max HP and has a really decent amount of natural Spadef. Like, I didn't have any investment, but it has just a good natural Spadef stat. And with the Eviolite, that thing took way too much damage from that Psychic from his elves to not be Specs. So I did confirm that it is indeed choice Specs, so I was like, alright, cool. So I have two perfect switch-ins right now, and I'm sure he knows that, but it's a matter of, like, which one will he predict correctly, right? So I went for the Lava Plume, got big damage off. He goes to the Chandelure, and I go to Zarude, and it was like, of course he did. He goes to exactly the one that I didn't want him to go to. Because at least if I went into Skuntank, because I debated between Skuntank and Zarude, and it was like, alright, what are his possible switch-ins to this situation? Alright. So, like, he could have gone Chandelure. It was either he was going to go Chandelure predicting the Zarude to come in, or he was going to go Garchomp to predict the Skuntank potentially. So, I felt like Zarude was a little bit better at that time. Because I thought he was going to expect Skuntank, because Skuntank's the one that has Sucker Punch. Zarude doesn't get Sucker Punch. So I think like maybe he would expect me to go into something that has Sucker Punch to kind of force him out. But nope. He goes into the Chandelure here. So I'm forced to hard switch out into Magmar as he goes for the Flamethrower. Doesn't really do too much damage to me. I'm going to just stay and take another Flamethrower, and I'm going to hit him with a Scorching Sands, get some chip damage off on this thing. I do end up building up a lot of chip damage on his team throughout most of this. He does decide to go into his elf there on the Scorching Sands. I kind of predicted that, but it wasn't like that important. I was kind of sacking Magmar there anyway. So I go into Salamence here, because Salamence is Scarfed. Thinking like I can just pick off this Azelf. He goes into his fairly defensive Vikavolt. Vikavolt's just a really chunky Pokemon, and I always tend to forget how bulky it actually is, but very bulky mon. It tanks that pretty well. I go into Skuntank predicting him to go for the Sticky Ready Wave, but he actually has Thunder Wave, and that to me was very, very problematic. So I'm going to go here for the Fire Blast. Excuse me. And then he's going to Volt Switch out as I get the Defog off, which is nice. So, good stuff. And I'm going to actually go into Zarude here on the Dracovish. We designed Zarude specifically to... it's not even 2 KO'd by Banded Dracovish, so I figured going to that would be safe. But he actually doubled back out into the Vikavolt here. So that's not pleasant. But I'm just going to U-turn out. I get a crit. Crit kind of, I don't believe matters in the long run here, but still, it's unfortunate I got the crit there. Sorry about that. I go back into Salamence here, not expecting him to go for the Thunder Wave, because I would have expected him to think I would go back into Skuntank here, maybe. So he wouldn't go for the Thunder Wave. He'd try to get the Webs back up immediately, but smart play on his part to go for the Thunder Wave there. So that kind of makes things a little bit harder for Salamence now. But Salamence is still going to be able to outspeed because he is Scarfed, and he's going to be able to take out the Vikavolt. Now, unfortunately, in comes this thing, and I just pretty much have to sack my Skuntank at this point. Now that the webs are gone, I don't really need Skuntank anymore. So, he's going to go for the Scale Shot, get the speed boost, and I'm just like, ah, great, this is fun. He goes for Earthquake on my Suicune, and immediately crits me. And I was playing this on my phone last night, because we had a little bit of issue scheduling. I had a lot of family stuff, and helping my dad move over the weekend and stuff. And he's moving as well, and he lives in Australia. So it was a whole bunch of issues scheduling, so I ended up playing him on my phone last night. But, that crit was so huge. Because Earthquake does not 2-hit KO my Suicune naturally. Even Adamant Earthquake, which he turns out that he definitely is Adamant. I ran the calcs afterwards. And the only way that he kills me on the next turn, spoilers, he kills me on the next turn with Earthquake. The only way that he kills me is with being Adamant. Even after the crit. So, if he was Jolly, crit me, and then he wouldn't have been able to kill me afterwards anyway. Would have been able to live a crit into a second Earthquake. So, unfortunately, he's going to be able to take me out here because of that crit. Just put me into range, too. Like, I think the Adamant roll is like 37 or 38 to 42 or something like that. Jolly, it doesn't even hit. It hits like low end of 39%. Like 39.2 or 3 or something like that. If I remember correctly from last night. I could be wrong. It might not even hit 39. It hits 38. But I get the Ice Beam off regardless. Get him chipped down really low. And he's going to be able to take me out with the Earthquake. So now I go into Mamoswine. So I can Ice Shard this thing out. No big deal. I still have my Sash intact. And he goes into the Rillaboom. And I'm like, nah, you're not touching me. You're not touching my Mamoswine. I need my Sash. So he goes for the Grassy Glide, does nothing to Salamence. Between the Grassy Glide and U-turn, we take no damage. And I'm just going to go for the dual Wing Beat here. Catch the Azelf on the switch in, and it is going to drop. Now, back to the Vish, and we go into Zarude and Ice Fang. That's not even damage. That's not even remotely damage. That's beautiful. So now I can go ahead for U-turn here, because I didn't expect him to stay in and just spam. That was not going to happen. So I get the U-turn off on the Rillaboom as I come back in. And I get paralyzed. And this is just a couple of turns of me just being sad that I keep getting fully paralyzed. But after this one, I believe this is the one that I get my attack off, and I get the dual Wing Beat off, and Rillaboom goes down. So Salamence has picked up 3 kills so far this game, which is insane. I'm going to go to Zarude here as he goes for the Vicious Rend. Again, we chew that like it's nothing. One more Vicious Rend, and we're just going to hit him with a Dark Slayer to get some chip damage off. There's really no other reason. I could have preserved Differential. Realistically, I could have preserved Differential here by just clicking U-turn there, because I knew he was going to outspeed me. Click U-turn, go into Mamoswine, and do this whole turn, and still preserve the Differential, realistically. But I didn't think it was worth it, so it's fine. But he goes for the Vicious Rend. I live on the Sash, and I smack him with the Freeze Dry, so Mamo's going to take out the Dracovish. I go for the Ice Shard just to get a little bit extra chip damage. I wasn't sure what the rolls were. I didn't calc the rolls for Salamence against the Chandelure. He goes for the Shadow Ball, and I go for the Dragon Claw. He does not kill me. I kill him. I do not get fully parried, and we are going to pick up our first win here in the UPA's Showdown Division. 1-0 against Cowpatt and the Sydney Thundurus. Fantastic game. That was such a fun game. Really back and forth the entire time. I had so much fun with this one. This one was one of the best games I've played in a really, really, really long time. So I'm super excited to see what the rest of the season has in store for us. This is going to be a wild ride for sure. UPA's got some, top-notch competitors here without a doubt. So I'm really excited about this going forward. And yeah, next week we are taking on the Green Bay Yampers, coached by Big Boy Brownie or Big Time Brownie or something like that. You'll hear the actual name in the video next week, but yeah, I'm super excited about that. Keep an eye out over here, and you'll see that stuff coming. But until next time, guys, I'm PokePrimer, and I'm signing off. Peace.